Kings, queens, and in-betweens, welcome back to the City Boys podcast. I'm Grayson. I'm back here with two of my best friends, Ethan and Jacob. Jacob, why don't you say hi?
Hello, all you City fans. I am rocking our brand new, not able to be purchased by the public City Boys scarf. You can see the entirety of it on Grayson's screen. Shout out to Custom Scarves on Instagram for doing that for us. That was super sick. And yeah, I couldn't be more delighted to talk some off-season ball with you boys. How you doing, Ethan?
It's another day in paradise, gentlemen. I'm still posted in the corner. No St. Louis City match to recap. However, we do have an entire season to talk about now. We are zooming out just a little bit. And honestly, I'm really excited to discuss this. I'm pretty hyped for the offseason in general. We got a lot of cool stuff planned, and already some wild St. Louis City news has come about.
We can go ahead and move on to our first piece of season recap work. We are going to go through the entire St. Louis City squad and give everyone a grade school rating. We're talking A, B, C, D. We're going to rate everybody on their season performance. And yeah, just go through and talk about each person and what they brought to the club this year. So starting up, starting off up top, a guy that we've chatted about quite a bit recently, John Hackworth. We're gonna start off with the goalie, or fuck, the goalie. The coach put John Hackworth in between the sticks. Let's see him. But Ethan, why don't you kick it off? What grade would you give John Hackworth for his work this year?
Well, to preface this, I think everyone knows my stance. I am fully hack in. I believe in him. I'm bought in. As far as his grade for the season, I think a C plus to a B minus is pretty fair. Ultimately, we did not end up making the playoffs, but there are a lot of strong suits to take away from Hackworth's time at the helm. Granted, there were the addition of the new signings. So granted, all the credit can't go to him. However, I think the vibes in the locker room have been great. I think he's got them. So I'm gonna go for a strong C plus, a weaker B minus for John Hackworth. What do you got, Jacob?
I'm just gonna give him a flat C. That's basically what his record shows as head coach. I will give him props on being able to integrate a bunch of new signings, especially since they all didn't come in on the same day. It was over the course of a month that he was getting new players in. Getting them integrated and bought into the system that he was trying to put in is a big plus. Now, not all the results went our way, so that's why I can't be too high on him. I am a hack in supporter as well. I would like to see what he can do with a full season. But yeah, just a C, not too high, not too low, passing.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you guys. There was definitely a lot of positives in Hackworth's play compared to Carnell, but there still is some frailties that we saw plague both coaches throughout their tenures. So I think Hackworth is moving us in the right direction, but there's still definitely a lot of progress to be made. So won't rate him too highly, but a C plus is where I'm gonna throw him at. Moving into the actual pitch. And we're moving to our goalkeepers. We're going to go ahead and give Roman Berkey a look. I feel like this one is pretty decent as well. Um, I'd say this isn't his best season. You know, we've seen better seasons from Roman. Um, and that we did see him win the goalkeeper of the year last season. I still think he should be up there getting shouts for that again. I'm not sure how the rest of the MLS is feeling about that, especially with St. Louis's performances overall. But the amount of times that Berkey has saved our asses, just unreal. I'm gonna give Roman an A minus. I think he's fantastic. We did see a couple of moments of weakness this year with iffy goals, something slipping by that are very uncharacteristic. Uh, I think it was a bad year for everybody, and for a bad year for Roman to look like this, um, still incredible, incredible guy, incredible player. So A minus from me.
I think Roman would give himself a B minus, just or maybe even a C because he does have like high personal standards, as we've heard in his press conferences, where he has said, this isn't as well as he would like to play and yada yada. But for me, I'm just gonna give Berkey an A. Without Berkey, I don't think we win as many games as we did, and we definitely lose a lot more games than we drew. We saw with, we're going to get into him, but Ben Lunt coming in, it is just there is a drop off in quality at that keeper position, and we can't afford to not have Roman Berkey between the sticks right now or in the near future. So I'm going to give Berkey an A. Love the guy. My mother's in love with him. So yeah, I love Berkey.
How can you blame her? He's just so handsome.
True.
Ultimately, I'm gonna go a B for Berkey just because last season I feel like he set the standard so high. And to be fair, he wasn't far below last season. I think just the amount of goals that he conceded, he's the goalie. So unlike the number 9, he does have one pretty specific job. Granted, he does have the defense in front of him that should take a lot of credit and responsibility for that, which we will certainly get into. However, just a B, nothing bad necessarily, just not Roman Berkey's best season for St. Louis City.
Yep, very agreeable there. Moving into our goalkeeper depth, we'll go ahead and give Benjamin Lunt a rating. He didn't feature too many times. We saw him feature in exactly 3 MLS matches. So huge bag to call from when you're rating his gameplay, but we did see a pretty mixed bag from Lunt. We saw some really standout matches, and then we've seen some very poor matchups from him. I'd give him a C as well, just real middle of the road. I'm not mad at his performances this year. I'm not super impressed. I've seen good and bad, so I'm gonna give him um yeah, that C. But the main thing is, do we think he's gonna be good enough to be our number one? Um, and I think that question is still in the air. I think he's fine, but then again, we haven't had to live without Roman Berkey for very long to actually find that out for ourselves. So still up in the air. Jacob, I know you used to feel some type of way about him. You used to hate him because of Football Manager.
Yeah, he's garbage in Football Manager. I have two thoughts in mind. So the two matches I'm like putting up for my own mental discussion is his FC Juarez 90 match, the actual game, full 90, and the Vancouver Whitecaps match that he played in. The Vancouver Whitecaps match did not go great. Granted, he had two ridiculous goals go in that like any goalkeeper could have those get past him. But he did also have one goal that I thought he should have saved and that I know Roman Berkey would have saved. But then the FC Juarez match, he was amazing in the first 90. And then we got to the penalty kicks and it looked like his confidence just absolutely went through the floor. So my grade for Ben Lunt, I'm going to give him a D plus for Ben Lunt. And yeah, that's all I got on Ben Lunt.
I'm gonna just give him a flat C because I think he is a decent backup goalkeeper. I would take him over some of the starting goalkeepers in the league. See the San Jose keeper. So I'll take him. He's definitely not our number 1. I'm happy that he's our number 2.
Deal. Nice and easy. Moving on, we do have Christian Oliveras on the roster. We'll just keep this short and sweet. He is the St. Louis City 2 main goalkeeper. He's been fantastic in City 2 this year, um, but has not earned minutes for St. Louis City. So I do rate him. I think he's fantastic. I definitely just want to see more of him. So um, I'll give him an F for the future.
I'm gonna give him an NA because he didn't play for City Senior Squad this year, and I do think he's more likely to be our long-term option than Ben Lunt is. So, what about you, Ethan?
Or yeah, I'm gonna go for NA as well. He played well against St. Louis City's first team when City 2 and City scrimmaged at the party at the park that I got to see. Other than that, I got no kind of data to pull from really. So yeah, I just hope he does well.
Deal. All right, now we're getting fun. We're getting into the field players. Hitting the defenders first. We're starting with some big names, so let's get it cracking on Joachim Nilsson. Ethan, why don't you start it off this time?
I will because I am a big Yoki fan. I really like the guy. I want nothing but the best for him, but if we are even biased grading his season, it's hard to give him a high grade based on how much time he missed due to injury. With that being said, I'm going to go for a B minus, which I think is fairly respectable if you're Joaquin Nielsen. We cannot forget the goal that he scored against the LA Galaxy. Absolute banger. On top of that, I think he was probably better than Tim Parker in the first half of this season under Carnell. Granted, did get injured, so really, if he can, yeah, hopefully that root canal surgery got his injury bug right and propels him into being a top level MLS center back, like I think we've seen glimpses of.
Yeah, every time we talk about Nielsen getting injured, it just reminds me of the sad day in Dallas when Celio went down, then Yoki went down, then City lost. Um, I also am a Yoki stan. I would like him to stay healthy. I'm gonna give him a B. The the goal that we are all referring to was amazing. And then also like just personal notes, the nose flare thing that he wears so that he gets more oxygen. That's like a low-key dope drip addition to his game day fit, in my opinion. Like that goes kind of hard.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's all I got on Yoki.
Deal, deal. I also rate Nilsson very highly. One of my favorite center backs in the club. I think he's fantastic. The big Swede in the back, he's a baller. He loves a bike. He loves a bicycle kick on defense and offense. Listen, I love the guy, so I rate him very highly. I think next season we're gonna get to see a lot more of him, because he is not gonna get injured at all. Knock on wood. He's a
Love that.
baller, and he's gonna carry us next season. This is gonna be his big year. So this season, I'm gonna give him a B minus because I want to see more of him. I thought when he was on the field, more than often he was great. Uh, there was a couple matchups that he looked pretty weak in. Um, but overall, like specifically like this last Minnesota match. But then again, not many St. Louis City players were looking great out there. So uh, definitely a great player, great guy, and we're gonna see more of him in the future here. So moving on to our number one right back, we got Thomas Totland. Jacob?
A, just A. He
Yeah.
passed with flying colors for me. He came out the gate hot, coming off of a season overseas, literally the end of their season, and then stepping right into the team, flying, playing that right back position stellarly, in my opinion. He did have a little rut there where I think all the soccer caught up to him and he kind of got tired and needed a little break. But then once he was back in, other than a couple of times where he got absolutely spun around, um, I thought he was one of our best defenders out there and offers a lot going forward with crosses and overlaps and 1-2 passes. And yeah, A, Thomas Totland.
Make it a double A like the battery, son. Thomas Totland is easily one of my favorite players on St. Louis City's team. Kids, if you're listening and you want to be a professional right back, this is the man that you need to be studying if you're a St. Louis City fan. I think that he is the prototypical St. Louis City player. He has a really, really high defensive work rate. He's really quality going forward. There maybe are times where there's a little bit more to be desired on the defensive end. However, like Jacob talked about earlier, I think that's something that can easily be developed. Not to mention the right back position. Jake Nowinski filled in. He filled in. We'll get to Jake Nowinski, but I love Thomas Totland, and I think that's our starting right back. So A for sure.
I'm gonna go A minus just because there was some shaky moments here and there. He did have a bad run of form in the middle of the year, but overall was fantastic, and he's a stalwart in the back line. He's not playing under anyone else, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, I want to see some better crosses from him. I just want to see him run up from the back, slot a ball across the top, Klaus header, two-shirt header. I just want to see that more often. But another big name, and one of our lone players, we got Giannis Horn, who, yeah, was one of the end of the year pickups. He's only played 9 matches for us in the MLS, which is pretty wild to think of because he's definitely made an impact on the team. I would say he is our starting left back. Talent-wise, he's fantastic. Defensively, I think offensively, Jaden Reed's got him beat just slightly offensively. But Giannis Horn's definitely got it locked in. Um, and I think he fits with our Germans really well. He goes back with a lot of the guys. So, Jacob, what you got?
I think what I want out of my mostly defending outside back is a motherfucker who will cross the ball until his leg falls off. And that is exactly what Giannis Horn does. He will whip in crosses from any angle on that left side of the
It's
field
true.
into the box, looking for someone's head, looking for someone's feet. And that is what I want out of my outside back. And he does it almost perfectly. Granted, we only got him for 9 games. Some of those games he got subbed off at halftime or in the 60th minute because of fitness and also a slight knee knock. So I'm gonna give Giannis Horn a B minus.
Jacob, I think you're exactly right. He will serve that freaking thing from anywhere, which is a quality that I really like about him. I think that's to his credit. And the reason being is because he offers a totally different attacking look going forward than Jaden Reed does. Jaden Reed is very much the take you on kind of player that wants to run at you, get a clip out of it, for lack of a better word. Giannis Horn, in my opinion, is a lot more fundamental, works his way up the line through passing or different channels. I've seen him do the underlap a lot. He's really comfortable running on the inside of the field as well. I hope that Giannis Horn sticks around through the end of his loan and we sign him permanently from this loan. I think he's fit the side really well. For me, I'm going to go a B plus, which honestly might be a little generous. However, I like the guy too. He's drippy. He's making home in St. Louis. He's clearly bought into the club. So I'm all for him. B plus.
Yeah. And I also want to shout out the guy. He immediately was showing some love on social media when the club signed him. He was liking everybody's welcome Instagram stories, so he definitely won us some points there.
No doubt.
I'll give him a straight up B. Moving on, we got Joshua Yarrow, definitely a servant of the club. Um, didn't get too many minutes. He only played 13 matches this season. I think he was our least used center back this year. Um, but I mean, he's fantastic. I would love personally to see Josh Yara play another year in St. Louis. Um, he never once has complained about coming off the bench or getting minutes sparingly, but he's just a fantastic person. Of course, he has been possibly linked with San Diego FC, the new expansion club coming to the MLS next season. It's very possible that they pick him up in the they could possibly pick him up in the super draft, but St. Louis City did re-sign him recently, so that was super awesome of the club to get that piece of business worked out because Yarrow is a baller. A I'm gonna give him a straight up B minus. I think he's fantastic when we have seen him. I honestly I think he could have played a lot more for us this year. when we had a lot of our big center back names out. So, but fantastic guy. So he'd be a definite upgrade for many teams in the MLS.
I think that's a really good take, Grayson. He would be a very solid piece of a lot of MLS defenses. And I personally really like the role that Josh Yarrow has taken on this season. He seems more like a sage, wise, captain like fellow that is the most professional. He goes about his business the right way and on the field takes care of business as well. I think that St. Louis City conceded some questionable goals while he was on the field paired with Tim Parker, but the back line inconsistency this year is hardly his fault. For me, I'm going to go for a B minus on Josh Yarrow. I'm glad that we signed him for another year. However, if San Diego does end up picking him up from the expansion draft, I would totally understand and also wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add here. Josh Yarrow, he's a king. I'm gonna give him just a flat B. I like what Josh Yarrow provides for us.
Deal. Jacob Nowinski is up to the plate. Uh, Overall, Jake's been with the club for 2 seasons now. He's got some minutes. He's been around the back line. I think he's played center back once or twice, but
Yep.
mostly he's featured at right back. And he's had his great games. We saw it against LA Galaxy. That's why he got the starting run of form against Tottenham for a minute there. Um, but overall, most of his performances, I've been wanting more from him, whether that's just going ghost at certain moments of the game. There was a lot of goals this year we conceded because we just weren't focused. At some point, lost a man. I'm not putting that all on him every time, but there was a couple times this season where just saw some questionable things. I still rate the player, um, but he doesn't make my starting lineup, and he probably won't. I'm gonna give him a D. I'm gonna give him a D.
The thing about a really below average season for the club is that means a lot of players played subpar. If they had played above average, then we would have had a better season. And unfortunately, Jake Nowinski, great dude, had his second child in St. Louis. It's hard not to like the guy. He's unfortunately fallen victim to a few games of just poor performance. There are notably, it started early against RSO when Arango beat him to draw level. That kind of parlayed our form into a lot of draws early on in the season that really we never recovered from. Granted, that's not Jake Nowinski's fault. That's not all Jake Nowinski's fault. It just other than the LA Galaxy game, it's hard to find a lot of bright spots in his game. He was able to find the back of the net this season in our last home game against Houston, which is awesome. If we negotiate with Jake Nowinski and he stays for another year, I hope that his contract weighs a little bit less on our salary cap. I think that there's another MLS team out there that would happily take Jake Nerwinski. And if not, I believe he would be a great defender in the USL. So as far as his season grade is concerned, I'm going to go for a C minus, a very below average season.
Brutal, gentlemen. Just absolutely disgracing the name of Jake Nerwinski in this
No,
episode.
not at
You
all.
said he'd be a great defender in the USL.
He would
Kind of
be.
That's a
So would
compliment.
Kessler. Kessler would be amazing in the
I wouldn't be
USL.
a good defender in the USL.
I do not want to um kick a man while he's down. Uh Jake Nerwinski, you have served the club really well. The first season on the field and second season as a veteran voice in the locker room. I know he was probably faced with giving some tough time speeches when we were tying everything, and then when we started to lose everything, I'm sure he spoke up, and that says a lot about his character, especially as someone who didn't get the minutes he probably thought he deserved. Um, so for that, I'm going to give him a C for the goal at the end of the season, probably for the end of his career with STL. I'm going to give him a C. And for having Joseph Paintsel in his back pocket for 45 minutes, I'm going to give him a C.
Yo. Some difficult conversations here because we're moving into Selmir Pedro. Who's that? A lot of you may be asking. Well, he was one of our very first St. Louis City SC signings. I remember when the club got announced. I think the jersey wasn't announced yet, but there was just some rumors going around that, hey, maybe we're starting to sign some players. And then the name Selmir Pedro came up. I think he might have been the first one to sign for the club, to be honest.
Yep, the
Uh,
first acquisition from Lutz.
yeah, and at first I was very hyped for this. Um, he is Bosnian. We've talked about it many times. St. Louis is a big Bosnian city, has a lot of Bosnians living there. So I thought it was super cool to have a Bosnian guy play on the team. But the only problem is he has to play on the team. He has not done that. We did send him on loan to FC Zlín in the Czech Republic. Um, he came back. He played 5 matches for City 2. He is a defender. I thought he was going to be big for us, but sadly, I don't think we will ever see him feature for City 1. So for that, I'm going to give him an F.
Yeah, for all the things you listed and the fact that he makes a ton of money for somebody who is yet to feature for the senior team, I'm also going to give him an F. It's nothing personal against Selmir Pedro. If anything, this is the one time Lutz burnt the food in the pot and maybe outkicked his coverage on a player. Who knows? But yeah, sorry, pal. You're my first F of the roster.
So what do you guys think is a lot of money for an MLS player to make?
To make or to be paid and not play.
Either.
I think high end to make and to not play is exactly the number that Selmir Pedro is getting paid.
Selmir Pedro has a guaranteed compensation of $374,000, which I'm not pocket watching here. I want nothing but for Selmir to get his bans. I'm glad. All right, hear me out. But I don't love that it came like finessing the soccer club that I love. So yeah, Pedro's a left back making 325 on the base, 374 guaranteed. He's never seen the field for City One. I'm sure he's a great guy. I kind of wish that St. Louis City had their Bosnian community represented on the field. Unfortunately, that's an F, brother.
You know who else doesn't play for the senior side? The three of us. You know who doesn't make 375 grand a year? Us.
Hey, I feel like we might have done more for St. Louis City than Summer Pedro has.
That might be a
Oh,
stretch. That might be a stretch. We might be reaching on that one. I'm just saying, I think the club could find a use for 375K somewhere else.
and like just to put it in perspective, Jake Nerwinski makes 277, Josh Yarrow 109, and they play. They actually play for St. Louis City. I would just like to see that unlocked from our pocketbook. Whatever word, my word.
Yeah.
You know. Well, moving
Joe
on
has me
to
all
some
flustered.
better better names here. Personal favorite of mine, definitely not at the start. At the start of his city career, I wasn't too big on him. Saw him play a game when I used to live in Colorado, and I was severely disappointed. But now, after a good run of form for him. Some minutes. I think Akil Watts gets a B plus. Uh, because he has done exactly what we've asked of him, which is come into his side when we need you and do your best and perform. Um, he isn't getting assists, he isn't getting goals. He's been playing center defensive mid in place of Chris Durkin, and he's been doing a decent job of it. Um, Better than Blom has when we've seen Blom this season. So, and
Yeah.
that's saying a lot. Akil Watts can also, we've seen him play right back. I think we've seen him play left back. I think
Yep.
we've seen him play center
He
back.
did play center back.
So yeah, he's just a custodian. He mops it up. He's a great guy. I've seen him on the City Voice podcast, and he seems super likable. So
He
for
was on our
him,
podcast.
City Voice,
Oh,
City
I was
Voice.
like, hold on, I must have missed that episode, brother.
That was a solo episode for me. So. Um, no, City Voice podcast.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
but yeah, for me, he gets the B plus.
I love Akil Watts. I think I have been an Akil Watts stan from the jump. I think I see a lot of like my own soccer self in Akil Watts's play. He's got that dog in him. He's way more God-fearing than I am. So shout out to him for that because that is not my lifestyle. Um, yeah, I like Akil Watts. I like the way he plays. I like the way he carries himself. I think he is the best definition of a utility player in the league. And so for that, I'm going to give him a B plus because I still think he can reach an A plus level.
Mm, I like that. I like that endorsement of Akil Watts a lot. And I don't think I hardly have anything to add. If anything, I really just want to say that if he got an off the field grade, it would be an A plus. The amount of love that he shows to fans, he's just a nice guy. You can tell he's grinding. Earlier today, he posted a picture on his Instagram story of him training. He's already back in the lab in the off season, which you just gotta love. He plays with that pride. Yeah, he's got that dog in him, Jacob. He doesn't just Grayson, you said that his role is go out there and do a good job, but he looks like he takes that very personally. He had that game with 100% passes completed. I really rate this guy, and I hope that he is on Lutz's list of 12 protected players because not only does he make less than 100 grand for St. Louis City, he is extremely versatile. I would plug him in any of those positions. And if we had a big run of injuries at outside mid, hell, why not? Let Akil run.
He did have that run of play where he burned like four people back to back when he was playing outside back. And I think immediately I sent in the group chat, like, put this man at outside mid, put him at
For
wing. He
real.
might be our best attacker on the field right now.
I don't know if I gave him a grade, so I'm gonna go for a B plus as well. But yeah, love Akil Watts. Hope he's back next year and for the foreseeable future, really.
Deal. Next player, a big name. I feel like this might be a difficult one for good reasons. We've got Henry Kessler, another player who's come in midway through the season. He did earn 25 matches, so he is one of our most played center backs of the season still. Uh, but yeah, he came into the squad, as we all know, part of that blockbuster trade with Tim Parker. So we lost a good one, but we gained a better one, in my opinion. I think Henry Kessler gets an A minus. I think he has transformed the back line for St. Louis City. We still saw a lot of defensive frailties. Uh, some of his play in the air, I want to see improvement. Just when you compare Tim Parker in the box on a corner kick, it's kind of hard to beat that. So he's got some big shoes to fill offensively when it comes to set pieces and that sort of thing, being dangerous in those types of areas. But from what he supplies for us in the back line, he gets an A- for me. Been fantastic, but always room to improve.
I'm gonna go for the B plus for Henry Kessler. Reason being, I think there's just a little bit left to desire on the defensive end. Not that he had a bad season by any means on that side of the ball. I agree that he was a step up from Tim Parker. That own goal toward the end of the season isn't doing him any favors, I think.
Mm.
I think that's kind of what's stuck in my brain a little bit. However, that like Kobe fadeaway header against his old club kind of, PEMDAS cancels that one out. So yeah, I think a B plus. He's a step up from Tim Parker. That was great business from Lutz, and that's our center back of the future.
I only have one thing that I want to see more of from Henry Kessler, and that is the shithousery that was promised. I want to see him get under some skin. I want to see him drop some bodies on the floor, really put those absurdly long legs to use and go crazy out there. Like the whole team's going to have your back, especially if you put somebody on the ground. The city's going to have your back if you put somebody on the ground. Just run your mouth, get under some skin, get some clean sheets, and it would be an A plus for me. But because we haven't seen that side of him really come to fruition yet wearing City red, I'm going to give him a flat B.
Yeah,
Also was
losing
up
it.
at sorry, Grayson. He was up at St. Louis University playing pickup with just soccer players. Like what a cool and desirable quality to have in your club.
I
Yeah, I was just
think you
gonna.
could
Sorry.
nutmeg him personally. Those legs are so long. I think he would find a way to thread the needle.
Please, Henry, can we go one on one, please?
You
I don't know
nutmeg him.
about one on one.
He'd still reach around and somehow snag the ball out. But yeah,
Yeah,
we'll take the meg.
I wouldn't take him one on one, but it like a 7 aside, you definitely have a shot at it. But 1v1, I think Kessler's probably got you wrapped.
No.
Let's go ahead and push on. We got a guy who is primarily a City 2 center back. He's played 4 matches for St. Louis City this year, so very minimal. But that man is Michael Wenzel. We did see a lot of him early on this season. We got to see him. I think he played against Houston Dynamo in Leagues Cup. Am I tripping? Or am I feel like I
Yes, he did. Yeah, Tim Parker was injured early on in the season.
yeah. So I think we got a mixed bag from him as well. I think the first game we saw him play, I really, really liked him. Um, we see less of him getting forward for City than we do in City 2. I feel like they give him a little bit more freedom.
I
Um,
I think it's a good thing that he
Yeah,
sits a
yeah,
I
little
agree
farther
for
back.
sure.
because that is something we did see. Um, was we saw him getting caught out of position a couple of times. Um, But then again, he is 22 years old. He's definitely one for the future. For his season he's having with City 2, I'm gonna give him an A. And I think he's on track to be a fantastic St. Louis City center back. And he's already German.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Grayson. With nothing to add, so I'm just gonna copycat you and go with an A as well.
Yeah, I would love to see him score a banger on the first team. That's about all I got for Michael Wenzel. I rate the guy though, and I hope that please, please no center back injuries next season as well. But if there are, I feel comfortable with them filling in.
All right, Ethan, I want you to start off with this one because it is your boy Kyle Hebert, the Canuck truck, coming in. So yeah, why don't you give us your thoughts about the guy?
Oh, Kyle Hebert, eh? Yeah, not a bad guy.
Pretty
Was
good.
really impressed by his Canadian performances. Well, he didn't play for them, so very impressive, flawless performances even. I do think that his time with the national team ended up boosting his form at St. Louis City. Definitely a great depth piece. If I'm being honest, if San Diego went for him in the expansion draft, I would not be surprised at all. I think he's a very valuable option, really versatile across the back line, and also really solid. So I would put him in above Wenzel, but I like them both. So for Kyle Hiebert, I'm gonna go for a B minus.
Jacob?
I love me some Canuck truck, bro. Other than, nah, I think I might take this from you, Ethan. I think I might be the highest rated person on Kyle Hebert in this pod.
Mm.
His just his defensive work when there's 6 yards behind him is absolutely phenomenal. Like,
Mm.
he's got numerous shot blocks on the season, crucial shot blocks on the season. And he had a couple goal line saves that, like, our king Roman Berkey wasn't able to get to the ball, so the Canuck truck had to come through and clear it out. Um, yeah, I don't want to see Kyle Hebert go anywhere. It kind of pains me that he plays for the Canadian national team. I do think it is good for his development, but uh he's Canadian, so that's going to be just a little, asterisk to this grade. In the shape of a maple leaf, probably. So I'm gonna give him a B plus, but the plus is gonna look like a maple leaf.
I can do that. All right, for my rating, I think I am by far the least high on Kyle Hebert on the pod.
Yeah.
You're a
But
hater. You're a hater,
hey,
bro. Just
hey,
say it.
I'm trying to be realistic here. Kyle Hebert definitely caught a lot of flack this season from announcers on, I think it was on Apple TV or something, and me at times. But I will say he came in, filled in right where he was needed. He was definitely I say our number two like pairing in center back after we lost Nilsson, we lost Parker, so we saw a lot of Kessler and Hebert together. So we did see him a lot this season, and yeah, once again a mixed bag. When you have a season like this, it's really hard to judge your center backs because overall it was so bad for everyone involved, and I think we're so much better than that. Kyle Hebert, I think, is fantastic. He's not a starter. The question is, do we think he will improve? And I think yes. I think Kyle Hebert will only get better with age. The question is, will we be able to hold on to him to keep him as a rotational piece? Or yeah, will we lose him to a new side or will someone else pick him up? We'll see. But for him and for what he's done for this season, I will give him a B plus because I think he did great as a role player for what he needed to be get done. There was moments that I will harp on him for, but overall, I think he was fantastic. Moving on, one of our other new signings and one of our least used guys for one of our new signings, we got Jake Gerwood Reich, the lad from Down Under. Jacob, what do you think?
Um, Truthfully, I think his grade reflects a lot in the manager's lack of use for me. I wanted to see a lot more of him towards the end of the season, which I've talked about at length at this point,
Hmm.
and I didn't really get that to really give him a fair grade. I think he's still coming into his own with the team. Sometimes he does look um unconfident and lost is not accurate, but like he isn't exactly sure of what to do sometimes out there positionally. And when you're playing next to a guy like Edu, who is in the right place, it seems like all the time, it's tough to also be in the right place, especially if you don't have enough time with him on the field like that. So I'm gonna give Jake a D, as in Girdwood. I do want to see more. I'd be excited to see him get some time next year, but it's just too early for me to really rate him highly yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna go quick on Jake Girdwood Reich. That's a C minus for me. Reason being, all the reasons you said, Jacob. He looks positionally just a little bit lost. I think he's still finding himself or getting his feet under him a little bit off the field, which is that makes total sense. I couldn't imagine how different Australia and St. Louis are, not to mention the time difference alone is a big hurdle. So I'm really glad that he'll have an offseason under his feet. And I would say I'm expecting big things from Jake Odereich. He's 22 years old and a lot of potential. So hoping he can be really good next year.
Personally, I think he's definitely one for the future. He is 20 years old. He's definitely one of the youngest guys that has played for St. Louis City. So for me, I kind of want to see him go to City too. If we're not getting him a lot of minutes in the league, I want to see him play. And he is the right age to be playing for City too. The thing is, he did cost a decent amount of money to be playing for City too. So definitely a question mark for me. I almost want to put him in NA, but I'm gonna give him a D minus. Just yeah. All right.
Wins.
Moving on, we've got Jaden Reed, one of the City 2 players that primarily played up for the first team. So, I will go ahead and rate him an A minus. I think for his age and from what we've seen from him so far, he's been just so much better than we've expected. We didn't really expect someone to come in this young and literally kicked Marcanic out of the club. So, definitely just a all-around fantastic player, earned 2 assists on the season. I think he's definitely going to be one for the future. I think whenever Giannis Horn moves on, Reed's got the position on lock.
Yeah, I'm gonna go B plus. That's crazy. He took taking your spot to a whole new level.
Yeah, played him out of the city. I'm just gonna give him a B.
You. This guy is on the roster for St. Louis City, so we'll give him a shout out. Tyson Pierce, he is 17 years old, so he is one of the youngest on the roster. He plays primarily right back, I believe, for St. Louis City too. Did get to see him play a lot of minutes the other night versus the Town. He looked pretty solid. I liked what I saw. So. Definitely one for the future. I'm gonna give him an NA. I don't really think much needs to be said on that.
You know.
But now we're moving into our midfield, so I'm sure we will have a lot to say about these guys because we have first Cedric Toy Shirt. Ethan, what do you got?
Oh, that's an A plus. That brother was impactful. He came in and smashed it. He didn't hit the ground running, he hit the ground sprinting and running at players against Sporting Kansas City. Honestly, started on a little bit of a low note, but ended as arguably the signing of the season. Toykert, A plus.
I give him an A. He can improve to an A plus.
With 5 goals and 4 assists in 10 matches, he gets an A from me. Moving on, Jacob, why don't you talk about our other big name signing of the year? We got Marcel Hartel.
Senor Cello, man, what a breath of fresh air as far as attacking is concerned. He came in at a point where we were really stagnant going forward and didn't have a lot of creativity. We were relying on perfect passes from Edu to get us going. And Hartel can beat you with his feet, and he can also beat you with the pass. He can also beat you with a shot of his own. Um, he is my other argument to signing of the season. So I'm going to take a page out of Ethan's book and give him an A plus.
I'm going to go for A and say that because we haven't seen him in his best position yet. But you said it, Jacob. I'm saying it. 2025 MLS MVP. That's an A.
Yeah, bro's a baller. I'm gonna give him an A just because I always want to see more. But dude was definitely looking like he's gonna make a big impact next season. Into gotta be St. Louis City Hall of Famer one day, Mr. Edward Leuven, the number 10 for the club. Uh, as thick as a tree, but he can spray passes like he's 2 foot tall, Messi. Bro's good. He's fantastic. Of course, we saw a big regression into the sophomore season that we saw with a lot of our big name players, but you really can't blame the guy with everything he's been going through off the pitch this season. So for Edward Leuven, I give him an A minus. Uh, we didn't have the numbers, but we saw the play is definitely there. He still got the talent, and we're giving him the right pieces to make a bigger impact next season. So I think he'll be big again.
Once he hits my 7 free kick goals futures bet, I'll give him an A plus. But for now, I just got to give him an A. I wouldn't want anybody else wearing number 10 for STL.
Maybe harsh for me, but I'm gonna go for a B just because I don't think this season was up to the standard of last season. Still great player, the rock in the middle.
All right, moving on. First, I think he was the first signing of the summer or the winter transfer window, I guess. The off-season transfer window. Christopher Durkin, definitely coming in and making a massive impact in the engine room for City. Ethan, what do you think?
Chris Durkin had it until our Germans arrived, a good argument for signing of the season. He and Thomas Totland, we brought him in over the summer, and both of them were mainstays in the starting 11. For me, I'm going to go for a B plus from Chris Durkin. We got a goal of the season nominee from our center defensive mid. I think that once he can really get that defensive discipline down, he's going to be a really great player in the MLS.
I think the one thing on Chris Durkin is sticking to his position is my only knock on Chris Durkin throughout the season. And so for that, I'm just going to give him a B.
I'll give Chris Durkin a straight up B as well. I think he's been fantastic, and I think we'll definitely see a improved Chris Durkin next season when he does return from injury. But speaking of injury, we have Thomas Ostrick with his very short season that we got to see from him. Jacob, do you feel any type of way about Mr. Ostrick?
Yeah, the stark contrast from the way he ended last season's form to where he started this season really showed me that he can play any position in that midfield and do it well. I am excited to see him back. I'm excited to see how he fits with all of the new names, and who knows what the formation is going to look like going forward with all these people, and how he can really contribute to the high level that he was contributing before he got injured. So prior to injury, I'm gonna give him an A because he was really dynamic and a lot of fun to watch.
Okay.
Same. I think it's easy to forget that we were talking about him potentially displacing Edu in the side. So yeah, he was really great. I hope that he continues that form into next season.
I kind of disagree. I wouldn't have to give him,
Go lay down.
I won't
Go lay
give him a
down.
crazy rating. I'm not going to
Go
give him an A. For
lay down.
Ostrick, Ostrick for me has kind of always been kind of a question mark where I'm not massively sure about how much quality he brings to the side. So for that, I'm gonna give him a C plus. But I feel like that's also just I haven't seen him play in so long, so it's the opposite of recency bias. Moving forward, we have another fan favorite here, a player that I have some apologies to come forward with. So I'll go ahead and take this one. This man is Indiana Vasilev. I called him mid earlier this season, and my mom will never let me live it down. Anytime, because Vasilev is her favorite. She's got the Vasilev jersey. And I'm jealous. That's a nice jersey. Uh, Vasilev, I think I will give him a B. I think that is a pretty mid rating. But that's just because, like I said, I think he's so much better than what we've seen from him this season. We got 3 goals and 4 assists, which is decently up there for output from what we've seen of him. But uh, as we've mentioned, we've seen him be so, so good. And I just think he could be a little bit more consistent. And I think he will fly up the chart in rating. But for me, it's a B for now. What do you guys
You
got?
know, I'm not surprised Indy is your mom's favorite player, not just because like Indy is dope to watch just to begin with, but like truthfully, brother, he plays a lot like you played. Like you guys
Mhm.
are very
I
similar
believe
on
it.
the soccer field. Granted, he's a professional, so like, make the strides match each other, but like, yeah. So when you called him mid, I was really, really confused. It was like, Grayson,
Hey,
you
I
called
consider
yourself
myself
mid?
pretty mid as well. So,
Um, yeah, Indy can definitely provide us more. I do think he's better than you've rated him, as far as mid goes. So I'm gonna give him a B plus because he can work to the A plus.
deal,
Agreed. I'm going B plus just because the injury bug bit Indy hard this season. I'd love for him to get a full season healthy.
deal. Jacob, chat about Mr. Jose Kahima.
Jose Kahima is arguably more entertaining this season on social media than he was on the field. If you haven't had the pleasure, go give this man a follow on Twitter. His soccer brain is so large. He looks at the game similarly to how like seasoned managers look at the game of soccer. And he's
Definitely.
only what, 22, 21 years old. So I think he's got a lot of room to grow and for his skill set to match his mindset. Um, he did serve us really well in that center attacking mid position before we had our new signings. And when the injury bug hit STL pretty hard, I thought he was one of our more fun players to watch. And that also came with some lows because he is a rookie. But he's performing well for City too. He's helping them with this championship run. I think in the future he's going to be a really, really great asset to have and then eventually start for us. But as far as his output on the field this year, I'm going to give him a C plus.
Mm. I'm gonna go for a B for Jose Kahima. Not a bad first season to have in the MLS. He made his debut early on this year. Also, had a perfect dap up at the City versus City 2 scrimmage. So yeah,
Yeah,
great
I'm
guy.
gonna give him a B minus. I think he's been fantastic this season. 1 goal and 1 assist. So we did get to see his first goal contributions of his career uh s- um for City. So that was pretty awesome. And yeah, by definition, student of the game. So we'll see a lot of him in the future. Moving on to our forwards finally, we've got Mr. Rasmus Alm, who just very similar to Indy in my rating here. I'm going to give him a straight B. Um, he's another fantastic winger that I think we can get so much more out of him. Uh, in terms of output. I was glad that we got to see him make a couple more appearances at the end of the year after he returned from injury as well. And he did look awesome on that right wing. But at times we've seen other people play that position a little bit better. We've seen Tusher play right mid. We've seen Betcher play that right mid position. So I think it'll be interesting to see how much time he gets next season. I think injuries is going to play a big part in what the team's going to look like, but I want more from him, so I'm gonna give him a B.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, Grayson. I'm going to go with the B.
Also a B for Rasmus, but hope he just stays healthy.
Here comes a big one. Ethan, give us your spiel on João Klaus.
Oh, I would be delighted to because unlike a lot of St. Louis City fans on Facebook, I recognize the value that a number 9 offers that isn't just scoring goals. All right. I apologize for getting so aggressive just now, guys. I'm gonna go for a C plus for Joao Klaus. Obviously, not his most productive season, not even for St. Louis City. However, he brings so much to the club. I would hate to see him as an opponent in the MLS. I'm riding for my boy.
Yeah, production, I think a C is fair. As far as actual quality, I'm gonna go a little bit higher and give him a B minus.
I'm gonna have to agree with that one there. I'm gonna go B minus just because we've seen the heights that Klaus can get to. I think he can even surpass that, but the issue is consistency. Um, and he's still been one of our best players this season, 5 goals, 2 assists. He can still put the ball in the back of the net. I think we're gonna see an improvement on that next season. So fingers crossed. Here comes a fun one. Toss up for you, Jacob. Novki Thorson. What's going
Oh
on there?
man, I thought we were going with Simon Betcher. Tough that you have to hit me with the Thor. Um,
Thor in my side.
I need
Ah.
more from Thor. There are glimpses in every opportunity he gets going forward, and where like I can see why he's on the field, and then it falls off right when he gets in front of net. So I need more from Thor. I think if anybody should be catching the Klaus level hate as far as not scoring, it should be Thor because he's put himself in a lot of positions to be the goal scorer and just hasn't bagged those goals. He is young, and you know, once he once he got the mullet and he got rid of that headband, there was a little bit more flair to him. Shushin, the Juarez goalkeeper, is a high point for
Yeah.
me as well. That
Yeah.
went pretty hard. I wish STL were a larger market because I think that clip should have gone viral in MLS circles. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna give Thor a C minus. I think he could really reach some really high highs with City. It's tough right now.
Gonna go for a C, which is very middle of the road, which is what I would consider Thor's performances. We started off so low on Thor, but I really do think he's come around and demonstrated at least inconsistently his quality. Hope that he can put together a good string of form next season. And truthfully, I think he will be a good option off the bench for St. Louis City.
You've definitely seen some flashes of brilliance from him, but as one of our most played players this season with 30 matches under his belt, he got 4 goals, so that's 1 goal less than João Klaus. So I will give him that. Like he did put the ball in the back of the net for us more often than anyone else did, but at the same time, there were so many more chances. Like this season could have been a 10 goal season for Novki Thorson. Um, and then if that's a 10 goal season, he could be one of our best players on the year. But sadly, that is not how the season end up. So for me, he gets a C. Um, this is a player that I want to talk about because he is one of my favorite players, and I so badly wish that he was able to play this entire season because Celio Pompeu had early shouts to be the MVP of the year, just putting up incredible stats for City, insane workhorse both offensively and defensively. Um, was creating chances left and right. Was creating chances at a rate higher than Edward Leuven, um, at a higher rate than many players in the league. He's in the top 10 for what games he did have. He did play 17 matches on the season. He had 3 goals and 3 assists in those matches, and he would have been a delight to see this season. And I think next year we're going to see him with these new guys, and it's going to be insane. I give Celio Pompeu an A plus from what we did see. Um, a just a solid for the full season long. I have to give him an A just because you can't be perfect when you don't play, but that's not on him because he was pretty much perfect when he did play. So for me, those are my ratings for Celio there. Um, big one for the future. He's still only 24. He's going to be a massive, massive guy for the city. So
Yeah, it's an A for me, but then it gets rounded up to an A plus because he's got the best smile in MLS.
Yeah, definitely an A plus. One of the brightest spots of the season. Real shame to see him go down. Let's be honest, him being injured was kind of the domino that started the downfall of our season. And I cannot wait to see him back playing with a smile on his face. He's a great vibes guy on top of his quality play.
deal. Uh, you know what, Jacob? We'll go back to you because you wanted this one so bad. Mr. Simon Betcher, what do you got?
I would like to answer the question that I posed when we first signed Simon Betcher via Instagram and TikTok clip. Is Simon Betcher a fraud? The answer is absolutely not. This man has turned a corner in his career. He started off hot with the team and he kept that hot run going, even when he wasn't seeing the field when João Klaus got back, even when they put him at right mid because João Klaus was up top, even when we switched the formation to a 4-4-2 so that we could play the two of them. He was still he was more dangerous in the final third than João Klaus was. I absolutely believe we need to sign him to a full-time contract. He is at home in St. Louis. He loves the city. The city loves him. He's absolutely rapid. He could score 25 goals in a season for STL. I'm going to give him an A. He was a baller for us for this end of the season.
Yeah, it's honestly hard to think of any negatives about Simon Betcher. Maybe just that he came on loan. And yeah, we did initially put him on fraud watch. That's an A season for Simon Betcher here at St. Louis City. I think he's a fan favorite. There's so many things that you can do with his great name too. So Simon, you betcha.
That was fire. Simon Betcher is the player that Novki Thorson wishes he could be. Uh, to be honest, they're very similar players. And l Simon Betcher matched Novki Thorson's goal tally in 21 less games. He had 9 matches and 4 goals versus Thor's 30 matches and 4 goals. So I think if we had Simon Betcher earlier this season playing at that backup striker position while Thor was out, we'd be in a different spot. I think Betcher is he's clinical, he scores when we need him to, and he loves the city, and I think we love him too. One for the future. Speaking of ones for the future, we have 2 players left. Um, Starting with another 17-year-old, one for the future. We got Caden Glover, who only featured 5 times for St. Louis City. Not much to talk about there, other than he is one of the higher rated youngsters. I think we could see a lot from him. His potential is through the roof. And I'd like to see him get some minutes for St. Louis City, but currently he's playing for St. Louis City too, and doing pretty well. So for me, I'm gonna give him a, a D. I don't know. It's pretty like an NA or an F, one for the future for sure.
Yeah, I'm going NA on this kid. He still has another homecoming to go to, but I'm big on him because there's another homegrown St. Louis kid. So no pressure. Just want to see the kid do well.
Yep,
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna give him an NA as well.
deal. And Ethan, why don't you close us out with your rating for Johnny Klein?
Johnny Klein. I I'm gonna go for a solid B plus from Johnny Klein because I truthfully think that he delivered what we thought he would have to offer. A scrappy home home raised kid that loves St. Louis soccer and has ties to it. I think that the city could take pride in watching John Klein play for us, and that potentially our time together has seen its end. For John Klein, Did I? Yeah, I'm gonna go for a respectable C plus.
I am gonna go for a lowercase C plus.
Okay, interesting.
For
Uh,
those of you that get it, you get it.
Johnny Klein, I'm gonna have to give Mr. Klein a C plus. I think he's rapid. If we don't have an Indiana Vassilev or Erasmus Alm, he gets more minutes. Maybe he shines a little bit brighter, but I don't see him getting minutes for the first team, so it'll be very interesting to see where he ends up in the offseason. But that wraps up our player ratings for the year.
Should we give an overall team grade? I think we should.
I think we should. That's a great idea, Jacob. Why don't you go ahead and start us off there?
Um, yeah, pretty easy for me on this one. We had high expectations that we did not live up to, and also we didn't finish dead last. We've got hope going into the next season, but this season as a whole, I'm gonna give it a just flat out D.
Yeah, for me, gonna go for a D plus. We finished above Sporting Kansas City, which adds on the plus,
Points.
but our worst season to date.
Yeah. Uh, Very little is stopping me from giving this season an F. I think what does make me give it a D is that the end of the season gave me a lot of hope for the future. We did turn around some form. We got a lot of new signing ins. We got new signings in. We got a new coach, a new look St. Louis. Gives me a lot of hope for the future. So yeah, um, I am a little bit excited moving forward. Hmm. All right, and with that, that wraps up our ratings for this season. Rated all the players, rated the team, rated the coach. So go ahead and in the comments below, leave your ratings, what you thought about the season overall, and yeah, just tell us what you think. But I think that goes ahead and wraps us up for this week. Jacob, it's your time to shine.
Fantastic. My second favorite part of the episode because my first favorite part is the start of the episodes. Um, yeah, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Do exactly the comment that Grayson told you to do. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure you follow and rate 5 stars. Go give all of our socials a follow. They will be listed in the descriptions below. And most importantly, don't forget to tell your mother you love her. Peace. STL. STL. All right, Bandit. Okay. Okay. I understand.